Well, good evening, and we'll at this time call the meeting to order and ask for a roll call, please.
Mrs. Reyes,
Yes.
Mrs. Sashinek,
Yes.
Mr. Ceniceros,
Here.
Mrs. Contreras,
Here.
and Mrs. Barnett.
Here. And at this time, we'll ask for Pledge of Allegiance, please. We'll ask for a moment of silence, and it's just a good reminder to silence your cell phones as well, please. Thank you. At this time, is there board member statements on current events?
Yes. There's a pretty good amount that have happened. We haven't a meeting in almost 1 month now. At the end of the school year, I attended a lot of events over at Fine Arts. There was an amazing concert that was put on by Travis White, Susan Nyan, and it was just amazing to see the talents of all of our students, all of our hardworking staff that played a big role behind the scenes of that. And I just want to give a big shout out to Susan Nine and Travis White and thank them for all that they have done for the arts in our district. And we also attended the ASBA Flagstaff Retreat up north. Had an amazing time of learning, laughing, and relaxing.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah, no? All right, so at this time, we're going to move on to item 6, which Dr. Friedman, Superintendent's Report.
Thank you, Madam President. Buenas tardes a todos, and good evening, everyone. This month, we get to share with all of you a lot about student activities we had around our schools before the Memorial Day holiday, and our cafeteriums were full of positive energy and smiles, kids at Hope and treasure hunters celebrating a memorable end to the school year. Before I dive into that, I wanted to make a point about our Equitable and Inclusive Schools proclamation coming up later in the meeting. In the past, we've done proclamations for teachers and other staff and American education, other broad themes related to our work in public schools. But as schools have become more embroiled in other public activism, we started getting requests for other more specific advocacy issues. Now it seems every couple years there's a segment of society singled out for persecution, including sometimes targeted violence, and this leads to calls for schools to come out with statements around those controversies. A couple years ago, we were dealing with threats to Asian students because people blamed China for COVID and any Asian served as a proxy for their anger. Before that, it was Black Lives Matter movement, and we developed our first version of the Equitable and Inclusive Schools document. Anti-Semitism continues to be on the rise in the U.S. The culture wars currently dominating today's politics have targeted the LGBT plus community. We've determined we can't keep up with an appropriate proclamation for every group, so we've worked collaboratively to modify that Equitable and Inclusive Schools proclamation to specifically include the Pride community. The proclamation's intended to help protect and support all of these groups every month. Our intent is not to engage in any political activism for any of these protected or vulnerable groups, but to support the teaching, learning, and safety for all of them. That means everyone in our learning community. Mistreatment of anyone, but especially our staff and students because of their gender identity, race, religion, or other group is completely unacceptable under any circumstances. Let me move on then to the moments from the end of May that are worth recognizing, the celebrations of our schools at Tres Rios. They had a whole month of recognition and celebration for Puma Nation. They honored their promoting 8th graders with awards and assembly and a waffle breakfast, a water day, a beautiful ceremony. The kindergartners also celebrated their accomplishment of moving on to 1st grade. Several Quentin Sharp grade levels cooled off with water days as well. Kindergarten celebrated their promotion to first grade. Eighth graders had an awards dinner and dance and a field day full of fun music, snacks, and other games. The Littleton STEM Firebirds got started with a staff versus eighth grade dodgeball game. I don't know how that came out, but we didn't have any workman's comp claims as a result, so I guess that was okay. Kindergarten to seventh grade had a field day. They hosted promotions including both Sparks and Flames. That's some of our preschool kids, pre-K, kinder, and eighth grades. So we had our traditional fifth through eighth band concert, but also their very first kindergarten to fourth band concert of the year. And oh my, that was a hit for everybody who attended. The Littleton online students came together to create memories with an ice cream social and photo booth. I don't know how that worked, but it sounds messy. Fine Arts Falcons celebrated the end of the year by showcasing their talents in dance, music, and choir performances. And staff came together in an aloha party to coincide with their Hawaiian-themed Spirit Week, culminating in what they said bittersweet promotions of their eighth graders and, of course, their little kindergarten students as well. At Estrella Vista, the Hawks homerooms competed against each other in fun competitions with eighth graders having a super fun send-off field trip to main event. Sixth to eighth grade band students held their last concert and had to perform an encore for the excited audience. That would have been great to see. PTSA hosted a family dance and light show. One event that I truly enjoyed at Estrella Vista was the first grade culture fest at the end of the year. And those students danced to celebrate culture diversity. Families were engaged, clapping along. Several countries were represented, and at the end, parents headed back to the first grade rooms to sample dishes from international cuisines. Mustangs at Country Place had a playful field day split over 2 days for the kids kindergarten through seventh grade, and families of kindergartners filled the house and cheered for all their students at their concert while they sang ABCs and 1, 2, 3 songs, and those were introduced by the kindergarten students themselves. So they hosted their own concert because you're never too young to practice your leadership skills. The Collier Business Academy had many of the events I mentioned already at the other schools. I don't want to sound too repetitive, but their fourth grade Olympics were super fun and helped build character of Coyotes. I want to thank all of our board members who came to different events. As I know, parents and staff really appreciate seeing your support. I'd also like to give a shout out for the staff who in one way or another assisted with the coordination of all these events. I think a lot of our principals and assistant principals had very few free nights during the last days of school, and there's always a small but mighty group of contributors, so we appreciate you very much. We're also excited this year to resume, or we were excited to resume our annual district-wide recognition. And in the past, we had virtual or site-based celebrations because of high virus transmission levels. So this year was the first district-wide recognition for some of our staff to be in the same gathering place. And thank you to Ms. Sosnick for attending and making remarks on behalf of the board. The cheer committee, led by Ms. Williams, did an outstanding job putting everything together. Ms. Kaufman was a great master of ceremonies. The executive team enjoyed the privilege of assisting reading names and handing out certificates and trophies. There was a lot of laughter and some tears, some emotional moments as we celebrated our staff for years of service and distinguished performance. This year we had 59 employees receiving 5-year certificates, and so they filled the stage. 20 people at 10, 4 at 15, and 1 person who'd been consecutive service of 20 years. Westside Impact Teachers of the Year were recognized again and presented with gift cards from the Littleton Education Foundation. And we recognized a lot of other outstanding staff, including support staff, who are recognized with Golden Key and Treasure Hunter awards for each site. This list is 14 names long, so I'm not going to read all of them tonight. Certainly they're available. We had a Power Conservation Award that went to Collier, the Curb Appeal Award, and Golden Spoodle Award. That's for our cafeteria people. Were presented to Trace Rios in a kind of a sweep. The Best Customer Service Award this year went for second year in a row to the Welcome Center, because those ladies rock the Secret Shopper customer service program. We actually have somebody who calls all of the schools and all the departments and rates them, and so they know what they're doing. We recognize one distinguished administrator annually who's nominated by staff, and the nomination selected this year went to Dr. Haid. And so congratulations on being named Administrator of the Year. The ceremony ended with recognition of our 9 retirees, and recognized at our last meeting. The board got to meet most of them as well. So we wish them the best in their new adventures. Learning is continuing over the summer with the Summer Acceleration Camp classes. That program started Monday, June 5th. Students enrolled in camp who just completed kindergarten through 7th grade are learning at the Country Place Academy this summer. Incoming kindergartners attending learning at the Littleton STEM Academy, because that's where all our preschool programs are. And if you have any questions about summer acceleration, you're still interested, you can call us at 623-478 extension 6199, and we'll still see what we can do to help your little one bridge through the summer reading, and actually there's a lot of fun stuff for them to do as well. We see more families participating already in the summer meal program. May 30 was the first day for the program, with breakfast and lunch being served here at Eva's Bistro and at Country Place, where the summer school is. Breakfast is 7:30 to 8:30, and lunch is 11 to 12:30. Meals are free to all kids up to 18, and served Monday through Thursday. And so we've had a lot of little smiling faces in here. I think probably because some of the families that are Boys and Girls Club families know a little bit more about our location here, and sometimes, the adults come in, pay out of their pockets for lunch, of course. Our staff pays out of pocket, of course, but there's a daycare family who brings 2- and 3-year-olds to enjoy the meals, and they're just darling. They enter and leave in a line together. They're so cute, and their hands behind their backs and bubbles in their mouths, and they're really quiet, and they're so cute. So the summer feeding program's already served almost 3,000 breakfasts and over 3,000 lunches. If you know any little ones or even high school students who are under 18 who want to take advantage of that service, please help us spread the word. The more people we feed, the better. For the 23-24 school year, we're planning for a variety of leadership development opportunities when staff return, beginning with a leadership retreat on the 10th of July. And then orientation for new staff members starts on the 12th. We're going to be orienting new admin on the 17th. We have professional development activities really that lead all the way up to the start of school for teachers, and they have different things that they're working on depending on how long they've been in the district. There's actually quite a good distribution of topics and things that we cover as they build their competence. Third-year teachers join on July 20th, so we'll have all the staff here by then. The agenda for pre-service is really busy, all the way up to when students return on the 26th of July. I want to affirm Mrs. Barnett and Mr. Sinceros, as he already mentioned, for their participation in the ASBA Summer Leadership Institute, because their professional development is important too. They attended the second part of their orientation to best practices in governance for new board members, and it's also an opportunity to become more aware of perspectives and policies and priorities from leaders all over the state, and align with strong leadership with our mission, principles, and goals. So we appreciate them making time for that. Our goal for this coming year is for everyone to be better together. And that's our theme for the new year. We're borrowing it from the lyrics of one of Alex Boye's songs, and he'll be our keynote speaker for our kickoff. And that's right before school starts. I also want to remind everybody that our students will start school next year with 2 new start times, 7:30 and 8:25. The length of the school day stays the same. Wednesdays are still early release. But I also feel a little compelled to remind parents about attendance at school. From the very first day, it's essential. School attendance has dropped off after the pandemic all across America and including in our school district. And we need to get everyone back into good attendance habits. In closing, I want to express our appreciation to Elaine Canis and Arizona Complete Health for their donation of $20,000 towards field trips. And of course, the Littleton Education Foundation for everything they do for our teachers and our kids. And that's all I have this evening.
So at this point, there is the reading of the proclamation. Is that, okay. So Amy has kindly agreed to do it. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Whereas the mission of the Littleton Elementary School District is to create high-quality, comprehensive, and success-oriented learning and leading opportunities for everyone in our schools, and whereas we rely on our core values of trust, respect, integrity, collaboration, and dedication to continuously improve our ability to work together towards ensuring every student has equal access to quality, success-oriented learning and leadership opportunities, and whereas our entire Littleton Elementary School District community should fully engage in helping all of our students reach their potential, and whereas educators are lifelong learners who help students understand our full history and our collective humanity, and whereas our students live within a larger community with families with sometimes differing points of view that necessitates an inclusive and diverse environment, and whereas the district is committed to fostering a learning environment that is physically, socially, and emotionally safe for everyone, and whereas the Littleton Elementary School District serves a diverse student body, which includes a variety of socioeconomic backgrounds, abilities, colors, races, religions, gender identities, and other vulnerable groups, and whereas the Littleton Elementary School District has adopted policies and regulations addressing discrimination and protected groups in sections A, G, I, and J, and whereas the Littleton Elementary School District strives to create a safe and supportive environment that is welcoming and inclusive towards everyone. Therefore, be it proclaimed, the governing board of the Littleton Elementary School District stand firmly against all acts of individual and systemic discrimination and believe that diversity is one of our strengths. And we believe building strong relationships increases trust and positivity. It positively impacts learning, that we wholeheartedly support deeper collaboration with families in our community, will address and deter bullying, and that we believe equitable practices can be fully achieved when all of the adults in the greater learning community share responsibility for the ways in which our words, actions, and underlying beliefs impacts all students. The governing board of Littleton Elementary School District commits to engaging its activities to create a greater awareness of bias and elimination of discriminatory behaviors for its staff and students by providing information to staff on bias and non-discrimination policy, providing resources to staff and students to facilitate discussions of bias and discrimination, supporting implementation of social emotional learning practices, trauma-informed, that have been shown to positively impact student behavior, relationships, and school culture, and supporting adopted curriculum content and resources aligned to state standards with culturally diverse and relevant criteria.
Thank you, Amy. Next, Ms. Vandewater, looks like we're going to do a program showcase.
President Reyes, members of the governing board, Dr. Freeman, and community, I am honored to present to you this evening the program showcase Los Alumnos Academy, OLE. Littleton has been working with Carlson affiliates for the last 9 years to provide an exceptional professional development experience. This experience allows our staff members to immerse in the culture that influences and relates closely to the community in which we serve. Our staff members had the opportunity to discover the culture through Los Alumnos Professional Development Academy, a 2-week language immersion experience that includes a homestay with a family vetted and trained by the Ole Center for Language and Culture, small class instruction, cultural activities, and historical tours. The immersion excursion, a 1-week combination of conversational Spanish and travel to historic places. Intensive Spanish, a 1-week program, includes 25 hours of direct one-on-one instruction, as well as 10 hours of online follow-up. We invite this evening Roberta Garcia, gifted teacher at Country Place Leadership Academy, and our Ole program coordinator from this year to share their experience. I would also like to note that both Bill and Susan Carlson from Carlson Affiliates are here with us this evening.
President Reyes, members of the Governing Board, Dr. Freeman, and community. Tonight, I will be sharing our program showcase outlining our district's trip to Ole, Los Alumnos Academy, and Santiago de Querétaro, Mexico. The goal for the Ole Center for Language and Culture is to become more culturally competent in order to better connect with students, families, and communities served. We will be watching a short clip.
Are you ready to embark on the journey to cultural competence? Join us at Los Alumnos Professional Development Academy for language immersion and cultural study. Fly directly into Querétaro, the colonial and historical heart of Mexico, one of the safest cities in the country and the home of the heroes of Mexican history, where the Grito de Independencia was shouted and the Mexican Revolution began. Experience the quiet neighborhoods, the spectacular plazas, historical monuments, and the tranquility and beauty of Centro Histórico. Stay with families fully vetted and trained by the school and who are experienced as hosts, who open their homes and provide a comfortable and safe space to our students and enable an inside view of family life. Enjoy the music, from mariachi to concertos. The art and the artists, from the indigenous to designers of today. Sample the unique foods from rural Mexico to first-class restaurants. And the even more unique drinks, from pulque to rich dark coffees and Mexican chocolates. Experience the beauty of Mexico and her people, where every weekend one finds a special event or a performance in one of the historic plazas. Join your colleagues at Ole Center for Spanish Language and Culture, which provides a comfortable environment and home away from home for learning. Learn with students at your own level, then move at your own pace. Where class size is limited to just 5 students, with individual instruction available. Led by a knowledgeable guide each day, a tour takes you to churches and other sites of historical significance, as well as local museums that tell the story of Mexico from pre-Hispanic times to the implications of history on Mexicans today. Apply your learning in the bustle of the marketplace, chatting with your family, making new friends, and in activities at school. Visit Guanajuato, another site important to Mexican history. Hear about the Indian Pipila who stormed the royal granary for food, and experience the mysteries of the silver mines, among the richest in the world, that played a huge part in Mexican history themselves. The home of Frida Kahlo and birthplace of Diego Rivera, Guanajuato is a center for the arts and the site of the International Cervantino Festival. The Academy culminates with a celebration of achievement. You'll receive a diploma confirming the hours of language and cultural study. So whether you're a college student needing hours for your transcript, want to learn about public service systems like education, or healthcare, or public safety and workforce development, meet with the Chamber of Commerce to discuss business climate and opportunities, lunch with the local Rotary Club, or simply travel with greater ease across Mexico or Latin America, Carlson and affiliates and the Olay staff await you now. Our students say, the Academy has encouraged me to develop my own Spanish and confidence in using it to communicate. Use my struggle as a second language learner to reinforce how to help our second language learners. Step out of my English comfort zone and engage with parents and staff who speak Spanish. Teacher quality was outstanding, classes were intense and extremely rewarding. This is a well-organized, safe, and fun learning experience. I cannot believe how much I learned in 2 short weeks. Are you ready to embark on the journey to cultural competence?
A total of 10 teachers plus 1 teacher coordinator attended the 2-week session to Santiago de Querétaro, Mexico on May 27th through June 10th, 2023. Here are a few bullet points on the immersion experience. Live and experience live and experience the culture and language of Mexico. Immersion, building bridges through language and culture. 1-week combination of conversational Spanish. 1-week program of direct one-on-one instruction. Travel to San Miguel de Allende, Guanajuato. Travel to Pueblo Mágico of Bernal. Travel to pyramids of Teotihuacan. Our day activities consisted of walk to school with friends, grammar classes, conversation classes, learning the history or culture class with a visit to a museum, a school, or a culture activity, comida at home, which was breakfast, lunch, and dinner, Spanish class. The evening and weekend activities consisted of explore Centro Histórico and use Spanish from the day, field trips to historical locations, and special events at the plaza. The teachers who attended this program are as listed. From Collier Business Academy, we have Sabrina Plaza, Manuel Torres, Melissa Torres, and Mercedes Torres, and I believe they're all here, so if they could stand. And from Country Place Leadership Academy and Fine Arts Academy, we have Carla Klaus and Michelle Walla. They're both here. Gloria Chadwick also attended, and CRS Stewart. From Estrella Vista Academy and Tres Rios Service Academy, we had Margaret Sauer attend, Jocelyn Thompson, and myself, Roberta Garcia. Here are a few quotes from my colleagues. I will be reading off the ones the quotes from the teachers that are here. My time in Querétaro will help me teach and communicate with new eyes. My Spanish has improved, and I have a greater appreciation for the struggles my students may have learning formal English. Thank you so much for this unforgettable experience and adventure. Carla Klaus. Ole makes you feel like if you are with family when you are at school. Everyone knows your name and welcomes you with open arms. The classes challenge you to grow educationally and culturally. It has been such an amazing opportunity that I hope to do it again. Michelle Walla. I had the opportunity to learn the language and culture of Mexico while building connections to other leaders within Arizona and abroad. I'm thankful to see schools taking opportunities like this so people like me are able to build meaningful connections with students, parents, and coworkers. Mercedes Torres. My time at Ole was very helpful to connect with the culture of Mexico. This will help me in my classroom to have more understanding of students' backgrounds. Margaret Sauer. My time in Querétaro cannot be described in solely words alone. Was definitely a life experience. All I can hope for is my Spanish to be one class higher than I came in with. Gracias por esta oportunidad. Thank you for this opportunity. Sabrina Plaza. I am thankful for the opportunity to attend the Ole trip once again and was able to continue my learning of grammar in the Spanish language. Each day I was able to experience the culture in either food, museums, and people. Melissa Torres. Thank you for allowing me the privilege to attend Ole for a second time, especially with a group of amazing leaders from LESD, TUHS, and AESC. I was able to grasp the history of Mexico and the prominent role Querétaro play in it much better than the second time around. This second time around. This background knowledge will help me when I teach the culture of Mexico to my gifted students. I was also able to learn more grammar concepts and how and when to write accents on the words using the SEGA acronym. Ole es como familia. Ole is like family. Roberta Garcia. Ole has allowed me to improve my Spanish and build my confidence. I am able to speak to parents of students who only speak Spanish. Thank you, Manuel Torres. And that's it. If you could go to the next, okay. Are there any questions or comments? Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Also, thank you.
All right, at this time, I believe we do have one call to the public, and that is Hillary McKillop. So while you're walking to the podium, I would just ask that in order to allow time for everyone, that you limit your comments to 3 minutes, please. And no name-calling, personal attacks upon board members, staff personnel, or other persons in attendance will be permitted by individuals who address the board. And in addition, any comments or questions on matters that are currently under legal review will not be accepted. And citizens are directed to other governing board policies for disposition or legitimate complaints, including those involving personnel. So with that, we'll let you proceed, please.
Thank you. Hello, I am here to follow up with the concerns that I shared last month. So as I sat and listened to the spring concert at Collier, where my kids attend, not only was I impressed by the talent and dedication of the students, and not just being biased because my student was there, they're really very good. It was like the best rendition of Hot Cross Buns I've ever heard by the 5th graders. They did a really nice job. But I was also disappointed that next year, hundreds of students in our district who are very talented may be missing out on band. And I know that there are many teaching positions to fill and that there is a shortage of teachers. And it may be easy to focus on hiring teachers for the core or necessary classes, but I'm here to say that I think band should be considered a core and necessary class as well. Last month, you made a proclamation that May would be considered Mental Health Awareness Month. But what good is a proclamation without action? It's just an empty phrase to make people feel like they're doing something without actually putting in the work or effort to make a difference. So I understand that mental health is a complex and multifaceted issue, and music obviously is not the answer to everything, but we know that it helps. Harvard Medical School published an article stating that music can activate almost all brain regions and networks, including networks that are involved in well-being, learning, cognition, function, quality of life, and happiness. Band also provides a sense of belonging and community that is vital during those middle grade years. So it would be nice to know that the board is making an effort to not only fill those core subjects like math, reading, science, etc., but the band positions as well. I'm not one to just complain without also trying to be a part of the solution. So I did take it upon myself to call the West Valley Symphony and Surprise to let them know that there were positions available, and to also see if they would be willing to partner with the district in some way while you all are looking to hire band directors. They couldn't really do anything. I've also contacted the Phoenix Symphony to let them know that the district is hiring and to see if they would be willing to partner with us in some way as well, and haven't heard back. So that's all. Thank you. Thanks.
Next on the agenda, is there any board member that wishes to have anything pulled off of the consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay, Marcus, what item?
Item B, number 3, proclamation for equitable and inclusive schools for all.
Okay, that item will be pulled. Is there anything else that any board member wishes to be pulled?
Hearing officers for fiscal 3 2023 and 2024.
Let me just locate that.
Yeah, section B, number 1.
Thank you. Any other items anyone else wishes to pull? Hearing none, then we will make a motion to approve or disapprove the consent agenda with the removal of B1 and B3 as requested.
I move that we approve the consent agenda with those 2 items not included.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll second that.
Thank you. There is a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion will pass. And at this point, we will now go back to item B1, the hearing officers for fiscal year 2023 and 2024. Marcus, do you want to make your comments?
So as I was going through this as a new member of the governing board, I was just curious to ask if somebody could walk me through how this process works. Are these people someone that we have a say in and selecting, or is that?
So Dr. Freeman, do you want to address that question?
Yeah, I would have been happy to address that question had I had it before, but what we actually use to make sure that we don't have any administrative issues is people who are trained through the trust as hearing officers, and then we adopt that list. We try to work with somebody familiar to the district, but there's a pretty strict timeline for due process for families when they're going to a long-term suspension. So in order to keep that timeline, we may have to sometimes go with somebody else on the list. But I guess the short answer is they're trained and approved by the Risk Retention Trust.
Further questions or comments?
Okay.
No? Okay. Is it easier if we do a motion and approve of that one at a time, or should we take item 3?
Probably should do it one at a time.
That's what I'm thinking as well. So at that point, we have heard and feedback has been given on B1. Do I have a motion to approve B1 as is?
I'll motion to approve item B1 as is.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, B1 will pass. Thank you. We will move on to item B3, which is the proclamation, which has been read. And at this point, Marcus, I will turn it to you for questions or other conversation.
Okay, well, President Reyes, Superintendent Freeman, I first want to thank our dedicated staff, obviously, for all the work that went into this proposal. However, I'm deeply disappointed in this final version that was presented to the board this evening. When I first went to the superintendent with a request to recognize the month of June as Pride Month in Littleton, I did so with an intention of ensuring LGBTQ+ students, educators, staff, and families felt welcomed, accepted, and safe in this district. What we are voting on instead, in my personal opinion, I think is a watered-down version and misses the point of addressing the issue that was asked for, of issues that face the LGBTQ+ community. It saddens me that I think that we feel a little scared and unequivocally to stand with the LGBTQ plus community in their quest for a quality education and equitable learning environment. According to the Trevor Project, LGBTQ plus youth are more than 4 times as likely to attempt suicide than their peers, with one taking their life every 45 seconds. A proposal affirming support for the LGBTQ plus community is not political theater, is not political activism. Political theater, in my personal opinion, was today's proclamation that avoids supporting an extremely marginalized group. So for the first time during my term, I will be voting no on this proclamation. And I don't have any comments or concerns or questions from the district.
Thank you. Is there other conversation or questions or feedback on item 3 before I call for a motion? I'm just going to address it. I am going to say there was, from my perspective in working with Dr. Freeman, there was nothing scared about putting LGBTQ on as the main point. However, there is multiple different diversions in this district that we serve and multiple different issues that we face, regardless of religious, regardless of political topics, and we have an obligation to fulfill everyone's needs in trying to protect all children, regardless of what may or may not be considered one vulnerable class. So I have seen this across many different genders, and I felt completely personally satisfied with the proclamation for the equitable statement that it served for all communities and all children that it represented. So that is merely my feedback. If there's no other feedback at this time, then I will ask for a motion for item B3.
I move that we approve item B3 on the consent agenda.
Thank you. All in favor? Or, excuse me, second. Thank you.
I will second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
The motion will pass. Thank you. All right. With that, we are moving on to item 10, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you, sir. Mr. French.
Thank you, President Reyes. Members of the governing board, Dr. Freeman, Littleton community. This evening, I'll be proposing the expenditure budget for fiscal year 23-24. When looking at the budget life cycle, there are many dates and milestones the district adheres to. We begin looking at the budget in the spring in preparation to bring a proposed budget to the board in June. This is followed by a public hearing and budget adoption in July. In a typical year, the first revision would happen in December if necessary. Other dates to note on this timeline include October of 23, which is when the tax bill will be mailed to individuals and businesses within the district boundaries, which include the primary and secondary tax rates we will discuss later in this presentation. The district's last opportunity to revise the budget is in May, and the annual financial report, which is a report on the budgeted expenditures, is due in October. This year is significantly different than the last couple of years, as the legislature has approved a budget prior to this meeting. The only estimate the district needs to make was around ADM. The district is estimating an increase of 200 ADM for fiscal year 24. The district has had a steady enrollment trend this year and saw a strong enrollment push towards the end of the year. The increase is in line with the demographer's expectations for growth in the coming year. The legislature passed a 2.92% increase in the base support level, which equals $139.44 per weighted ADM, and brings the base support level to $4,914.17. The base support level is extremely important to the budget formula. It will be multiplied by the weighted ADM to determine the general budget limit. The state budget that was approved also included an additional $300 million in one-time funding to K-12 education that can be used for either M&O or capital purposes. The district's share of this will be approximately $1.385 million, and the proposed usage will be discussed in our next item this evening. We are also expecting the transportation support level to increase for Littleton from $2.32 to $2.37 per mile. This amount is multiplied by the number of approved route miles driven by our transportation department and is ultimately rolled into the M&O budget to support salaries and supplies like fuel. There is some good news for district additional assistance. Also, the state budget increased this allocation by 9.38%, bringing the per pupil amount to $549.45. It is important to note that DAA is still not indexed to inflation and significantly lower than the allocation of charter additional assistance provided by the state at $2,049.12. Reviewing our M&O budget calculations, the base support level and transportation revenue control limit are added together to get a revenue control limit of $39.4 million. The M&O override is $5.72 million, an increase of $430,000 from prior year. We are currently estimating carry forward from FY23 of $3.1 million. This number can still be a bit fluid with orders coming in this last week of June. There is a transfer to the Energy Savings Fund of $199,000 as the same as the prior 3 years. Additional Prop 123 money of $346,000 and the one-time state aid supplement we spoke about earlier of $1.385 million, providing an overall 24 general budget limit of $49.76 million. This is an increase of $3.52 million from our last revised budget in fiscal year 23. A review of our district's assessed value valuation history starts in 2014 all the way up to 2023. You can see in 2014 through 16 a moderate increase in property values and strong growth from 17 through 21. Growth in the primary assessed value in 2022 was 12.38% and 10.84% in 2023, which are the highest rates in the last 10 years. Annual growth in existing property is limited to 5% annually, which was Prop 117. However, growth from reclassification of property and construction is not limited. This upswing in value is credited to new construction in the district and the conversion of vacant land to residential property. With a high number of building permits in Avondale, it is expected the district will continue to see strong assessed valuation growth for the next few years. This tax rate history slide gives us a 10-year look back at tax rates for the district. Using preliminary calculations, the district is estimating the tax rate for fiscal year 24 of 4.8666, a decrease of 26 cents from last year. The decreased tax rate is due largely to the strong growth in the assessed value from the last slide. The Truth in Taxation statute deals only with the amounts levied of adjacent ways money. It is funded on the primary tax rate and is authorized by the governing board. Littleton has set a levy in adjacent ways of $550,000 in the FY24 budget. A Truth in Taxation notice will be posted and a hearing will take place with the adopted budget in July. Our publication for Truth in Taxation requires the district post the levy amount with a $100,000 home value with the levy and without. Without the levy, the rate would be zero, and with the levy on a $100,000 home would be $14.24. At this point, I'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Is there comments or questions regarding the proposal of the expenditure budget? Hearing none, I'll request a motion and a second.
I move that we adopt the proposed expenditure budget for fiscal year 2023-2024 as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion will pass. Thank you. And we will move on to you, Mr. French, for the one-time longevity recognition.
Thank you, Madam President. In April, when we brought before the board compensation options, We had told the board that we would bring back a compensation item if the district received any one-time funding from the state, which we ended up getting one-time funding based on my last presentation. It included the $300 million in one-time revenue for K-12 education. This allowed the district to receive approximately $1.385 million. The district is proposing or bringing forward to the board this evening a plan that's very similar to what you saw back in April. We made a couple of changes to the plan. Two of the most notable changes is that we added a 3 and a 4-year option for staff. Employees that completed either their first or second year of employment with the district would not be eligible for these funds as they are considered to be on a probationary status. So what the district is proposing is that anybody that completes their third year, they would receive $250 at the end of that fiscal year. Anybody that completes, their 5th through their 9th year would receive $500. 10th through 14th, 1,000, and so on. This plan, as presented, would cost the district approximately $394,000 and would be reevaluated on an annual basis to determine if the district can continue this. All things equal, we have enough funds to continue this program for 3 years. If nothing changes, legislature doesn't take any money from us. We do have some fiscal cliffs that we're keeping an eye on that we may need to utilize some of one-time money for. So this would be an item that we would bring to the board on an annual basis. At that point, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions, comments?
Just one question. With regard to the amount of the incentive, is this post-tax or pre-tax, or do they get the $250, or is it going to be taxed as well?
Member Barnett, this would be a taxed item, so we would be giving them this amount, and then taxes and everything would come out of that, and they would get a net amount that would not be, $2,500 or $2,000.
When are they receiving this?
Member Soshnick, so the way that we are envisioning this is that they would receive this after the fiscal year that they completed. So it would be a June payment.
So we're receiving 1.3 million this school year in one-time funding. Do we have any, I don't know if this be a separate item on the agenda, but is there any other ideas what we plan on doing, or would all this money just be set in a separate account for this program?
What we would be looking at is what we didn't want to do is provide a program that we wouldn't be able to afford in a future year. And so what we were able to look for is, all things created equal, we would be able to sustain this with the money that we received from the legislature this year for 3 years. Without anything changing, any fiscal cliffs happening or the legislature taking any money for us. So we built this plan to last potentially up to 3 years.
Yes, Dr. Freeman.
Madam President, if I may, a question for Mr. French, because I don't remember from the earlier presentation, but we had presented this earlier as an alternative option, ongoing and one time. But what I'm thinking is this schedule of money was about equivalent to 1% raise to the group?
Dr. Freeman, you're correct. So it was equivalent to roughly 1% of a raise to everybody.
So roughly the same cost to the budget as except since this is one-time money, we don't want to put it into base salaries. And then the short answer to Member Sincero's question is it would sit in the carry forward for either continued application or some other funding effort, emergency, or concern, considering especially state revenue is dwindling. So we did want to carry some forward for another day.
I have one more question. So
Yes.
is this in addition to what we discussed in April, that 2%? So this is the 2% and then this is in addition to?
Yes, Member Barnett. So we had talked about the 2% because they gave us inflation funding. We also talked about 0.75% for every 1% they gave us on top of that. So they gave us approximately 1%. So we're giving staff 2.75% next year. And this was an item that we had promised the board we would bring back to you if we received any one-time funding, which we are going to receive from the legislature. So this is our proposal.
Any other questions? Hearing none, then at this point, I will ask for a read, please, or a motion.
I move the governing board approves a one-time longevity recognition stipend based on years of service for staff for fiscal year 2023-2024.
I'll second.
Thank you. I have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion will pass. Thank you. And Dr. Freeman, it looks like it turns over to you for organizational charts.
Thank you, Madam President. Since the organizational chart's approved by the board, checked by auditors, we wanted to bring, even though it's a really small change, the change to the board is in the HR section. And we had made some modifications to that a couple years ago to deal with all of the issues with COVID. So we've taken the reference to COVID out of the org chart, and we've changed the HR director to talent, recruitment, and retention. And the main reason for that is there are grant funds available to help us recruit and retain teachers. And so now the org chart aligns with the grant that we want to apply to be more efficient in the use of our M&O monies. And that's all there is on this chart that's different.
Thank you. Is there comments or questions on the chart? Hearing none, I will ask for a motion, please.
I move the governing board approve the organizational chart for fiscal year 23-24.
Thank
I
you.
second.
Thank you. Hearing a first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion will pass. Thank you. And at that point, we will call for an adjournment at 6:58. Thank you.
I adjourn the governing board, adjourn at 6:58.
Thank you.
I second.
Thank you. There is a first and a second. Meeting is adjourned. Hearing no opposed at 6:58.